Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a first trimester recap video, which is literally so crazy that I'm already out of the first trimester. I feel like it just went by so fast. I've watched a handful of these first trimester recap videos before, and I always think it's just so fun to see the different similarities in terms of things that women experience in pregnancy, but then also how literally every single woman's body responds to pregnancy so differently, and there can just be this vast array of experiences and symptoms. Like, for example, one of the symptoms that I've experienced that I'm going to share in this video is something I had literally never heard of before, and I feel like I've had a lot of close friends go through pregnancy. And so to start off this video, I thought it'd be fun if you are pregnant or have been pregnant, or if you have a close friend or family member who's been pregnant, to comment below the weirdest pregnancy symptom you've either experienced or heard of, because I think it's just so crazy to hear about all the different crazy things that our bodies can do during pregnancy. And so a little overview of what I'm going to share in this video. First of all, I'm going to share the symptoms I've had so far throughout the first trimester, and then also share the things that have been helpful to me. And then I'm also going to ask some of the questions I've been receiving, like, were we trying? What's our due date? Are we planning to do a gender reveal? And so we're just going to go ahead and get into that and start with the symptoms. So I just want to give the disclaimer before I start talking about the symptoms that I am so incredibly thankful to be carrying this sweet baby, and I never for a second want to take for granted what an incredible gift that is. And so I always want to be mindful of that, especially in talking about the symptoms and the more negative aspects of pregnancy. But I also want to be real about the reality of it, that it's been difficult. I think I always had a very idealistic view of pregnancy, and I totally thought that I was going to be one of those women who just loved being pregnant and I looked forward to being pregnant. I would always say that I looked forward not only to being a mom, but to being pregnant, and well, that just has not been my reality. It's honestly been a doozy. And so I'm going to share what some of those symptoms have been, but I also just want to share that even in all those things, in the discomforts and the difficulty, I'm so thankful to be pregnant. And so here are my symptoms. If you watched our video of us finding out that we are pregnant, we found out somewhere in like the 5-week range, so probably like a couple days before I hit the 6-week mark. And so I really didn't have any symptoms or things that I was experiencing before taking the test. But when we did take the test, I think I actually have a clip of this that I'll insert, but we were kind of trying to calculate it to figure out like when it happened and when our due date would be and how far along I was. And I was pretty sure I was in that 5-week mark and that I was a couple days away from the 6-week mark. And I remember telling Tyler that Heather, one of my best friends, she had told me that when she found out she was pregnant with her first baby, that she also found out a couple days before the 6-week mark. And I just remember Heather said she found out like at like the day before she was 6 weeks, and then she found out, and then the second 6 weeks hit, morning sickness started. So that means I've got 6 more days until I'm...
Yikes.
And my mom threw up every day for 9 months straight, so let's hope I don't have the same thing as her.
We will be praying for that for sure.
Sure enough, the 6-week mark hit and boom, the nausea started. And I kind of expected to have that just because my mom has always told me that that was her experience with both my brother and me. She got sick, like literally threw up every single day for 9 months throughout the entire pregnancy. She said that whenever the toothbrush hit her mouth, it was just like game over. And so I always kind of knew that that might be my experience, but also prayed that it wouldn't. And then even throughout this first trimester, as I have been sick, like I'm going to talk about, I have prayed that it wouldn't last throughout the whole pregnancy like it has for her, and so far it looks like I'm on the path to be just like my mama, so thanks, Mom. But I do think it's gotten a little bit better, so I'm going to explain that. But anyway, so we found out, and then I was kind of keeping like a weekly journal when we first found out to kind of like track symptoms or things I was noticing each week. And then when we got to like the 10-week mark, we were traveling and I didn't keep up with like the weekly specific journal, but just kind of more generally kept track of the symptoms. And so I'm going to read through the things that I was keeping track of those first couple weeks, and then just more generally what my symptoms were. So the first week, week 6, the first thing I noticed is that I was very tender up here, just very tender and sensitive, like I had never really experienced before, because I never really got that with like my period. And then, like I said, the nausea hit on Thursday of that week is what I wrote down here, and I think we had taken the test on a Tuesday night, and so just a couple days later. And then a couple days after that, I threw up for the first time. And then the other symptom I wrote for week 6, and this is the one that I had literally never heard of before, but is that I was sneezing so much, literally all the time. And at first I thought maybe it was allergies, but this is kind of when like the peak allergy season was like fading a little bit and I hadn't experienced it before, but it was literally just nonstop. And I looked it up and it turns out that's a thing that oftentimes women, pregnant women, will develop more mucus, which is really fun, really cute. But because of that, your body's trying to like sneeze it out. And so that's something that I was experiencing. And honestly, at first when it was just the sneezing, it was maybe like a little bit annoying, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But then as it's progressed, it's also led to like that constant post-nasal drip. Again, real cute. But the downside of that is when you constantly have just like that drip in the back of your throat, I feel like I've been trying to clear my throat a lot, which in turn has sometimes led to me getting sick because you're just like activating all those muscles. And so that was a weird symptom that I didn't know about, but apparently it's a thing. I also wrote for week 6 that I was loving rice and beans and bagels and just like kind of plain bready foods. And then for week 7, I put lots more throwing up. And then also coffee and matcha both started to sound disgusting to me. So when you're pregnant, you can have a little bit of coffee or a little bit of caffeine. I think it's like 200 milligrams a day. And I probably would opt to have decaf coffee anyways, just to play it safe. And then something like matcha is a lot less caffeine than coffee. But the thought of either one of them literally just sounded gross to me. And so I wasn't doing coffee or matcha, but I put that week that I discovered the Starbucks Mango Dragon Fruit Refresher and got that a couple of times that week. Since then, haven't really liked it, but it did the trick on week 7. For week 8, I put that I had some lower back pain, still very nauseous and getting sick. That's pretty much just like a constant throughout the whole thing, as you'll see. And then week 9, I put still very nauseous, still sneezing a lot, and also I now have an aversion to meat, which is really sad because right before we got pregnant, Tyler and I actually got a Traeger, and he was so excited about it. We normally have like our date night on Tuesdays, and he was like, from now on, we're calling it Traeger Tuesdays, and we're doing steak. And actually the night we took the test, before we took the test, he had made us like a steak dinner, and sadly that was the last time I got to enjoy steak because it's just sounded gross to me ever since. I feel like meat in like a hamburger or like ground turkey or something like that, when it's smaller pieces I can do, but just like a hunk of meat on a plate, haven't been able to do that. It's like gross even just thinking about it. I also put for week 9 that I was getting lower back pain on the left side near my tailbone, and that's kind of a spot that's come up a couple times, not like constantly, but here and there throughout the pregnancy. And then week 10, I put that I was still sneezing a lot, that my mouth tastes weird a lot of the time, and then I was maybe starting to notice the tiniest bump, which I'll have to give you guys a little bump date here. So that was the weeks that I kept specific weekly tracking for. And then now just to the more general symptoms throughout when I stopped doing that. So it's just been, like I said, nausea and vomiting kind of throughout most of it. And then around week 13, it progressed instead to reflux and vomiting. So I started to realize that I wasn't really feeling like nauseous in my stomach anymore, but I was starting to get reflux. So kind of like feeling that more in my throat, which still has led to the end result of vomiting. But yeah, that's just been kind of a thing throughout. I've pretty much gotten sick like every single day, maybe with like a few exceptions, and sometimes more than once a day. So that's been fun. And then fatigue for me hasn't been like a super consistent symptom, so it's not something I experience all the time. But here and there when it hits, it hits. Like there's been a couple of times that I've gone to sit down on the couch for just like 20 minutes and then I wake up 3 hours later like nothing happened, which for me, I'm not usually a napper at all. So that's been a new thing to adjust to. And then I put also just occasional back pain has been a symptom. And then the other symptom or just kind of weird thing is that what sounds good to me is literally constantly changing. So like I said, I haven't really been doing coffee or matcha or anything like that, but probably like a month and a half ago, Tyler and I were heading out for a prenatal appointment, and we stopped to get like breakfast foods at a coffee shop. And I just have really missed having the ritual of something in the morning. So having a matcha or having a coffee or just like a cozy drink to sip on. I was like, I'm just gonna try something, and I ordered an iced mocha, decaf, lightly sweetened, and I really enjoyed it that day. And so the next day, Tyler came home from his morning workout and had surprised me with another one of the same drinks, and it literally was like repulsive to me. I didn't want to say anything because it was really sweet of him, but he came back in the living room a couple hours later and it was just sitting there untouched, and he was like, "You don't have any of your drink," and I was just like, I just can't. And so he's kind of learned that surprising is nice, but in pregnancy it just doesn't work, because literally what sounds good one day can sound disgusting the next day, and it's just always changing. And so that's been another weird symptom. And on the note of Tyler, I feel like that's been one of the sweet things about pregnancy. Like obviously there's been the really sweet moments of getting to tell friends and family, getting to hear the heartbeat on the ultrasounds, which is literally the most indescribable thing. But the other really sweet part of pregnancy is just honestly seeing how selflessly Tyler has cared for me and served me throughout this entire thing. Like literally every single time I get sick, he is there to hand me a bowl, to hold back my hair, to scratch my back, to clean it up. Like sadly enough, we have a routine for this now. And he's also done like the majority of the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. And that's been kind of a hard thing for me to accept, because I want to be able to help more with those things and do more of what I was doing before. And I feel like I'm just being lazy when I'm getting like the literal bare minimum done for my work every day. But he's just constantly reminding me like, your body is working so hard, and like take it easy on yourself and it's okay. And that's been a hard thing for me to accept. And that kind of leads into the final symptom, or not even really symptom, but just something that I've experienced and kind of gone through in pregnancy, and that is mental health. I feel like just with not feeling well and sometimes being tired and getting sick a lot of the time, I haven't been able to be nearly as productive or have at all the same capacity as I did before pregnancy. Like there was probably a 3-week period in April where I didn't upload a single video, which is so unlike me. And I'm someone who's typically very task oriented and I'm an achiever. And so when I'm not achieving or getting things done or checking things off my list, it can be really hard for me to just get really down on myself. And so I feel like that's something that I've really struggled with. And I know and hear from so many people that you just have to have grace on yourself. You have to take it easy on yourself. And I can know that like mentally, but it's hard for me to actually extend that grace. And so that's been something that I've kind of been working through. And I know that a lot of women experience either like postpartum depression or perinatal depression, so depression during pregnancy. And I don't think it's at all been that for me, but it definitely has just been that struggle of trying to not get down on myself for those things and to give that grace to myself. And I did want to mention, I always have this linked in all of my videos, but I do have an ongoing partnership with BetterHelp. Christian counseling is something that I personally use, and BetterHelp is an incredible resource to get you connected to a Christian counselor. And so I always have that linked below. And I also have a 10% off code if you want to check that out. And so kind of with the whole mental health thing, the other part of that has been social media. I feel like typically when I'm on social media, a huge part of that is to create and to contribute, and that is something that I love doing, that brings me so much life. But kind of throughout the past couple months and just not feeling well, and oftentimes being on the couch, I end up scrolling more, just doing a lot more of that mindless scrolling and endless consumption, which I feel like in turn has led to a lot more comparison. And so that's just kind of played into all of that and been another thing that I've been working through. And with that, I feel like I've just kind of been in a little bit of a spiritual slump with all of this, and not even just from pregnancy, but I feel like before that, I talked about in my wife Q&A about how getting married, it's easy to kind of like shift the focus from immediately turning to God, but kind of like turning to your husband and that person who's physically continually there. And so I feel like I was already kind of just like in that place of figuring out what that new rhythm looked like of being married, and then had kind of just gotten to a good place with that, and then we got pregnant, and then it's like this whole other thing thrown in of just like constantly not feeling well. That's made it really hard, honestly, to stay focused in reading the Bible and in prayer and in all of that. And so I feel like I've just kind of been in a little bit of a spiritual slump too, which I think I'll probably make an entire video on, just talking about that and things that I've been doing to try to get out of that. So let me know if that's something that you would like to see a video on. But that's been another part of just kind of the whole mental health umbrella of all of this, that it's just really crazy how much the physical can really affect the mental and the spiritual, and then also vice versa. And so I just wanted to share about that. Next category are the remedies, or the things that have helped. And so I've got a little basket of some of them here that I want to share with you guys. So the thing that I kind of really had to realize when it comes to remedies or just looking for things to help or alleviate the discomfort or whatever is that when you just constantly feel nauseous or sick or tired or whatever, at least for me, I feel like I was looking for anything that was going to bring relief and wanting something that was just going to make it go away. And I think the thing that I've kind of had to realize is that, again, at least for me, I haven't found that one thing that just like always works. And to a degree, it's kind of something where it's like, okay, this is just like the stage and the season you're in, and it's not going to be forever. And you kind of just have to be comfortable with not feeling comfortable and be okay with that. But there are little things that I have found that can bring temporary relief. And so none of these things are like you do it and you never feel sick again, but little things that have been helpful for me. The first thing has been working out, which I literally never feel like doing. And even as I'm filming this, it's probably been like a month since I've worked out. But in those the first month or whatever, the first couple weeks, there were times that I like forced myself to do an easy, gentle, pregnancy safe workout. And again, I never felt like doing it, but I always felt better after doing it, or even just like going for a walk, like not sitting on the couch all day. And then the other thing too is doing my best to be productive or to stay busy. I found that that was really helpful because it gives me something to focus on other than the fact that I don't feel well, because I think sometimes it can be really easy to just get consumed with that. The next thing are these pregnancy pops. I feel like if you've seen a first trimester video, you've probably seen these before, but these are something that my friend Maggie actually recommended to me, and basically they're just like little sour candies. They've got raspberry flavor, green apple, lemon, tangerine, but they're specifically for pregnancy. And I think just having something in your mouth that's like continually there is helpful. And so I take these, or I'll have those every once in a while. And then kind of on that same note, something that my friend Kaci recommended to me is chewing gum. And it's just that same idea of, I feel like, having something in your mouth and like all of that, you know? And I probably prefer the chewing gum just because with the pregnancy pops, it's like they help while they're in your mouth, but then a couple minutes later, they're gone. But chewing gum you can do for a little bit longer. And so that's been a little bit helpful. Also saltines, people always recommend, you know, like having those by your bed first thing in the morning. And so I've done that a little bit and it helps here and there. And then the other thing is I realized that I have to sit straight up after eating. Like I can't have dinner and then go lay down on the couch and cuddle with Tyler, because if I'm laying down, then things will just start to rise when you don't want them to rise. The other thing is eating small amounts of food often. And this was something I kind of learned the hard way, especially when you're having like so many aversions in the beginning. I feel like when I finally found something that I wanted to eat, I would want to eat the normal amount of it that I would normally eat, but I just can't do that pregnant. Like I'll feel full really quick and it'll cause me to be sick. And so I feel like with the nausea, with the reflux, it's finding that balance of never having an empty stomach, because then you'll feel sick, but then also not being too full, and like your bar of feeling full, at least for me, is a lot lower than it normally is. And so just the small amounts of food throughout the day. And then also specifically with the reflux, something that's helped is something my cousin recommended to me is peppermint tea, and then also peppermint essential oils. And so that's been helpful. I also just kind of in this remedy section have to share the sweetest thing that one of my friends did. So a couple weeks back, I was asking for just suggestions with the nausea, the reflux on my Instagram stories, and I put like a little box there, and people were submitting remedies and suggestions. And then I had a couple people ask me to share those, and so I ended up compiling them in like a little list and posted them to my Instagram story. And then a couple hours later, I was sitting on the couch in my apartment and I got a knock on the door, and it was my friend Marissa, and she had literally taken a screenshot of the little list of remedies, which I'll leave up here. And then she had gone out and made a little basket. It was actually this basket here that she filled with all the different remedies for morning sickness. And it was literally the most thoughtful thing ever. I just thought that was so sweet, and it makes me want to be a better, more intentional friend to each of my friends in no matter what season they're in. And so if you have a friend who's pregnant or nauseous, feel free to steal that idea of what Marissa did for me, because it literally meant so much to me. And then she also got me this mama necklace that I'm wearing here. She got it for me shortly after we told her that we were pregnant, and she didn't know this, but I had literally been wanting this exact necklace. And so it was just the most thoughtful thing ever. I've mentioned her a couple times before, but she's a photographer, and if you're in the Bay Area and you are looking for a photographer for weddings, for announcements, for any of the things, I'll have her linked below. And then also Also in this remedies section, I wanted to share just a couple of the things I've been using. The first are these Ritual prenatal vitamins, and I just wanted to share these. These have been great because they have like the little lemon tab in there, and so it kind of masks the taste and makes it bearable to take prenatals. This isn't sponsored, but I have worked with Ritual before, and so I do have a code. It is Kaci20. If you want to check them out, I'll have them linked down below. But that's what I've been taking for prenatals. And then also not sponsored, but a brand I've worked with before. This is Primally Pure. I've been using their body butter to prevent stretch marks, and I love using this because, again, their ingredients are super clean, so I feel safe using it for me and for baby. But all the things in here are the ingredients that are known to be really effective with preventing stretch marks. So like coconut oil, shea butter, olive oil, rosemary extract, vitamin E, and so that's what I've been using for stretch marks. And I do also still have a code with them that's active, and that's Kaci Nicole, so I'll have them linked below as well. All right, so finally we've got questions. I'm gonna answer a couple questions I've been getting on Instagram and here on the comments of my videos. But the first one is, were you trying? And the answer is not actively, but we had decided to stop preventing it and to just leave it up to God. I shared more about that in our pregnancy story video if you want to check it out. But if you watched that video, you know that basically as soon as we stopped preventing it, we did get pregnant a first time, but then experienced a very early pregnancy loss. And again, we share the whole story in that video, but I did just want to say thank you for the sweet comments that we've been getting on that video. They've seriously been just so encouraging, and we're so thankful and praying for those of you who also commented, sharing things that you've gone through in the past or that are currently going through. And so that happened right after we stopped preventing, and I had been using Natural Cycles, the birth control app, to prevent when we first got married through the first couple months of it. And then when we decided to stop preventing, I was still using it, but more so to just kind of be aware of and monitor my cycle. But when the miscarriage happened, I started using it to kind of track my basal body temperature and track patterns in that. So that's a big part of how the app works, is that you take your basal body temperature in the mornings and input it. And after we had the miscarriage, the reason why I was really wanting to kind of track that is because I wanted to see if there was any indication of potentially a hormonal imbalance. Obviously with miscarriages, there are so many reasons why they happen and sometimes no apparent reason at all. But one of the potential reasons or factors can be hormonal. And so I just kind of wanted to be aware of if anything like that was going on. But then we did end up getting pregnant with this baby really shortly after that. But I did just want to mention that because I did promote Natural Cycles before, and I wanted to mention it again. This isn't sponsored, but just because I truly think it's such a beneficial product to use, whether you are trying to prevent pregnancy, like we initially were when we first got married, or whether you are actively trying to plan a pregnancy, or if you're just using it to kind of be aware of your cycle, because again, I think that our cycles can give us so much insight to our general and just overall health. And so I do still have a code live with them. It is Kaci, and I have them linked down below as well. But that is the answer. And then the other question I've been getting a lot is if I have cravings, and honestly, no. I feel like not beyond the normal, like non-hormonal cravings that I would have before anyways, of just things that sound good on different days. But for me at this point, it's mainly been aversions, and I already kind of shared some of those, but again, it's been like coffee and matcha. And at this point in the pregnancy, I feel like the taste of those things is something that I'm starting to enjoy again. But now with the reflux, I can only really take like a couple sips of them before I start to feel just like really full, especially if I've already had breakfast. And so I'll then feel sick, and so I haven't really been doing them still. It's been the same thing with water. I found that it's hard for me to drink too much water because normally I like to kind of just like chug it, but I can't do that right now. And so that's been hard to drink enough water, which I know is really important. And so I'm making myself, but it's just hard to keep that all down. And then the other aversion has been realizing that I can't do anything that's super sweet. So like probably a month into being pregnant, I had my high school girls over for a sleepover, and I made them my homemade cinnamon rolls, which are so good. But I had one after having eggs, so I did have protein, and I just felt so sick the entire day. And I think I realized having so much sweet in such a compact little thing, like I can't do things that are too sweet right now. And then I already mentioned this too, but hunks of meat, can't do that. spicy stuff. Not that I don't even really like the taste, but it just doesn't really sit well with me. And then a really random one is Chick-fil-A sauce. So normally I love Chick-fil-A sauce. I'm typically like a Chick-fil-A sauce and buffalo sauce with my chicken strips kind of girl. But we went to Chick-fil-A like 1 or 2 times maybe in the first trimester, and I got the Chick-fil-A sauce because I always get the Chick-fil-A sauce, and it was literally disgusting to me. It tasted just like straight up sugar, which is so sad because I normally like it, but that's been another just weird aversion thing. I should probably try it again to see if that's still the case, but it just hasn't been good. And then the next question that I've been asked a lot and we haven't shared up until this point is how far along are you, or what is your due date? And so I had you guess in the telling our friends and family video that just went up a couple days ago, but I am officially 17 weeks. And so our due date is actually Thanksgiving Day, which is really funny. Lots to be thankful for. And we just keep telling people that we've got a little turkey baby coming. And then the final question is, are you guys planning to do a gender reveal? And the answer is, I think so. So there's a small part of us that thinks it would be fun to wait and to not find out the gender. We have some family and a couple friends who have done that and just said it was like the most amazing experience. And I feel like it would be such a fun surprise, but I also feel like it's a surprise no matter when you find out. I don't know, I'm really torn, but I do think that we probably will end up doing it. And if we do, it would be in July, and we would probably do some sort of like small gender reveal with family and friends. And so if you have any creative ideas for doing gender reveals, comment them down below, because if we do it, which again, I think we will, we don't know how we're gonna do it. So leave any ideas down below. And then also let me know if you want to see a video of that if we do have a gender reveal. That is all for this video, I think. That's my first trimester recap. I'll probably do maybe another one for second trimester if you wanna see it, or just like another pregnancy Q&A at some point. But thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and then subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And then comment down below any pregnancy pillow recommendations, because up until this point, I've just been using like an extra pillow in between my legs at night, and that's worked up until now, but I feel like that's probably the next thing for me to get. But I feel like with all the pregnancy products and things, there's just like so many options out there that it can be a little bit overwhelming. And so if you have a specific pregnancy pillow that you know of that you would recommend, leave it down below. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.